Tonight, coronavirus cases set a one-day record in Montana. A nursing home in Billings is at the center of the increase. Plus,
we want to reopen the schools. Everybody wants it. The moms want it, the dads want it, the kids want it.
Reopening our schools on the national front and right here in Montana. The guidelines and plans being discussed.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Good evening and thanks for joining MTN. I'm Tim McGonigal. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but we begin with weather, and our own Grant Garland has been tracking some severe weather throughout the day, and he joins us now from the Weather Center. Grant?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Tim. We've been looking at a slew of severe thunderstorm warnings. We've had 4 tornado warnings already, and we're looking at this powerful line bowing out as it makes its way towards Glasgow. I mean, with this line, we've already seen 90-mile-per-hour wind gusts out towards Malta, and that is what we're expecting as it moves into the northeastern part of the Treasure State, as well as we're looking at 1.5-inch size in hail. Could be up to 3 inches, though, so let's go ahead and zoom in here, and let's see what we're looking at. Well, we do have that severe thunderstorm warning for Daniels and Phillips County in our viewing area until 6:15. And I mean, as this has progressed throughout the state, it has continued to, we've continued to see the warnings extended. As we put this into motion, this storm is moving very fast at around 60 miles an hour. It will be in Glasgow here in the next about 12 minutes. They'll be in Fort Peck by 5:50, and Nashua by 5:57, and by Fraser by 6:13, and Wolf Point by 6:34. Very powerful storm. The good news is that a lot of us have been taken out of that severe thunderstorm watch, though, that we were previously under. Now we're still looking at our friends in Phillips as well as Valley and Daniels County, and that will be lifted around 9 p.m. Now, there we will talk about not only that, but there was a possibility of severe weather to the north and east today, and we saw it. Now, for more on that, let's send it outside to Montana's Keely Van Mittendorp.
Thanks, Grant. It is a beautiful night here in the Electric City. All seems calm and serene. It was a much different story on the High Line earlier today. However, residents there were facing severe threats of severe weather, including golf ball-sized hail and even threats of tornadoes. Now, luckily, a lot of that system did die down. Good news for residents bracing for some of that heavy damage. Now, we did talk with the National Weather Service spotter, Josh Miller. He says that he saw some heavy winds and rain, as well as light hail in the Havre area today. Here are some pictures from the Havre area, as well as from Fort Benton and Fort Belknap. While the damage could have been much worse, Miller does remind everyone to heed storm warnings and alerts from the National Weather Service and local authorities.
We do get people who tend to get a little complacent, especially if it doesn't happen. And so what I would recommend for people to do is really listen to those warnings, make sure they heed them. Like I said, when they issued that warning, it was certainly warranted.
Now, Miller did share some tips with MTN about staying safe this summer. He says if severe weather strikes, make sure you have a place to go, plan ahead of time, and take any warnings or alerts from the National Weather Service seriously. Now, the threat of severe weather is not going away. It's actually moving east towards the Dakotas, so those communities will have to keep a heads up. I'll be sending it back into the studio now, reporting live from the MTN Weather Deck. Keely Van Mittendorp, MTN News. Back to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Keely. And as Grant told us earlier, and Keely mentioned as well, there was a tornado warning earlier this afternoon. Fortunately, no touchdown, but it does serve as a good reminder of what to do in the event of a tornado warning in your area. So, Grant, what are the do's and don'ts?
Well, the main thing is that if a tornado is around your area, the first thing is you need to make sure that you get into a sturdy building, that you need to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Never want to get into an area where there is open glass. And also, if you are actually out and about and you're driving along and you see a tornado and it's headed its way, a lot of us want to think that we just need to drive away from it, but actually that can be a real big problem because tornadoes are unpredictable when they are moving typically. But the biggest thing is to get into a ditch, because then the tornado will actually go right over you. The winds, I know it sounds crazy, but that is the case. And you never, ever, ever want to go under an under bypass, because actually that's when the winds will channel into it and it actually will make it stronger. And a lot of people can die from that. So those are some key pointers when it comes to tornado safety, Tim.
Thanks a lot, Grant. Well, our other big story tonight, another record jump in coronavirus cases for Montana. The state adding at least 80 cases since Monday morning. Montana currently now with 517 active cases, 22 hospitalizations. 13 counties have reported cases within the last 24 hours. And Yellowstone County seeing the vast majority with 55 cases. Most of the Yellowstone County cases reported this morning came from an outbreak at the Canyon Creek Memory Care Community in Billings. Riverstone health officials say 43 of the assisted living facilities residents and 15 employees have tested positive for COVID-19. 2 of the residents have been hospitalized. The facility said in a news release test results are pending for another 9 residents and 15 employees. Lewis and Clark public health leaders have issued a new order seeking to stop large gatherings in the county over concerns about the possibility of spreading COVID-19. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian reports on what the order will mean for the upcoming planned events.
Lewis and Clark County Health Officer Drenda Neiman says while they've been discouraging large events around the county for some time, they now feel it's necessary to take additional steps to back up that guidance.
Our recommendations and our advice continues to be disregarded, and large events with lots of people continue to happen.
On Tuesday, Lewis and Clark Public Health released a new order, making their previous recommendations on large gatherings into enforceable requirements. The order says as of Wednesday, events with more than 250 people will not be allowed. Anyone organizing an event with more than 50 will be required to submit a detailed plan on protective measures with public health 10 days before the gathering.
We do want to be helpful, and we want to work with event organizers to make the event as safe as possible, but we will be honest if we don't think that the event will be safe, and we'll ask that it be canceled.
Enforcement of the new order will be complaint-driven. If authorities receive a complaint, law enforcement will observe the gatherings and could forward information to the county attorney for potential misdemeanor charges. Last week, Public Health was reviewing more than 30 proposals for large events, and Neiman said they've received a large number since. She said they're concerned some of the plans may look feasible but be too difficult to implement safely.
We have a responsibility to keep our community safe, and at this point we need to keep the cases low, and the only way we can do that is to get our community to respond by taking our advice and doing what we're asking.
In Helena, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.
Well, last week, both the governor's office and the state superintendent of schools released guidelines for how Montana public schools can reopen this fall after spring closures due to COVID-19. School officials, however, had already come up with their own guidelines and say they'll consider all 3 plans as they decide how to reopen. MTN's Mike Dennison spoke with education officials this week and tells us what those school reopening plans may look like.
Local school districts in Montana will make the call on how they plan to reopen this fall and are likely to have some forms of kids back in the classroom with face-to-face learning. But school officials say it won't be business as usual.
You may be coming back full bore. I don't believe that it's going to look like that. I think that there's probably going to be a blend of remote delivery of education services if they come back to the classroom in select and smaller groups.
Miller says many schools have been surveying parents and school staff on what it will take to make them feel safe. For those who don't feel comfortable being at school among larger groups of people, online classrooms will have to be available. And in-person learning will probably look different too, especially in larger urban districts.
If you've got a group of 30 students together, don't slice that deck and resort it 6 or 7 times a day, or you will not be able to track who saw who and who was in proximity to whom, and you won't have an effective way of isolating the impact of a positive COVID infection.
That means kids may be in one classroom for most of the day, with different teachers coming to them for different subjects. For classes not everyone takes, like foreign languages or advanced placement, those may go online only. There's also consideration of having half the kids coming to classrooms for part of the week and the other half the rest of the week, and remote learning when they're not at the building. School officials also say you'll see lots of cleaning of facilities and other preventative steps, like temperature checks.
Presence of any type of mitigation is going to be throughout every school day and every school. You're just not going to be able to walk into school and not notice it.
Schools are on a tight timeline with perhaps 30 days to finalize their plans. School officials say one thing the public can do to make their job a little easier is take precautions to stem the spread of the disease so the numbers decrease between now and the start of the school year. They're also saying anything approaching normal at Montana Public Schools appears a long ways off. And we haven't even talked about one other aspect. How much more is this new normal at Montana schools going to cost? One estimate places it at $70 million for this coming year. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Montana has almost 500 separate school districts serving nearly 150,000 students. Now, we did reach out to Great Falls Public Schools. They tell us that they will be meeting next Monday to discuss Great Falls classes. Well, summer vacation isn't giving much of a break to educators trying to figure out how to safely teach students in this time of COVID-19 when classes start up again in just a matter of weeks. And today, the White House is urging schools to open up, just as critics say not so fast. Months after most schools closed due to COVID-19, there's a difficult lesson playing out how best to reopen. The President and Secretary of Education want to see schools reopen. Today, Vice President Mike Pence urged governors on a call to prioritize reopening schools, saying it is a goal. Last week, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommended students go to classrooms rather than use remote learning. Well, Great Falls International Airport is reporting far lower than average monthly revenue numbers so far in 2020. Last month, the airport reportedly brought in just over 20% of their normal June revenue. That's up from 5% of normal revenue in April and 10% in May. But they're also seeing another trend: more people coming into Montana than going out. Airport Director John Faulkner attributes that to the fact that out-of-state travelers arriving in Montana will no longer have to quarantine for 14 days.
Many of the states where people normally vacation, like California, one of our highest destinations, has a pretty aggressive quarantine. Hawaii has really aggressive quarantines. What we're seeing is more people are flowing in to the airport than flowing out, which is typical in the summertime, and we do see that. But I think right now it's even more concentrated than it normally is.
Faulkner added that while the decrease was expected, outbound traffic being down over 80% is still significant. Coming up, they serve their country. Now they're doing their part to help stop the spread. We'll take you to a drive-through clinic at VA Montana.
From Montana's news leader, you're watching the MTN 530 News.
Welcome back. Earlier today, Fort Harrison VA Medical Center conducted surveillance testing for the COVID-19 virus. MTN's Sam Hoyle takes a look at why it's important to keep testing.
As COVID-19 cases continue to rise in Montana, the Fort Harrison VA Medical Center held their second surveillance COVID-19 drive-through testing in 2 weeks. Karen Zawacki, an occupational health nurse for the Montana VA, said they likely completed hundreds of tests on July 7th in hopes that by doing these tests, they'll be able to limit the spread of the virus.
It gives us more information to do surveillance testing. So this is testing on people that have no symptoms, just to see if they're carriers, because then that can protect. If they find out that they do, it can protect their family members, it can protect their friends, it can protect their loved ones, and the general population.
The Center for Disease Control says older adults are at an increased risk for severe illness to the virus. Data compiled by the National Center of Veterans Analysis and Statistics shows that in 2018, over 55% of the nation's veterans were over the age of 60. In Montana, that percentage rises slightly to 57%. Zawacki said that in order to definitively know if veterans are more susceptible to the virus, they need more data.
I don't know if we have that data yet. I think it's too soon to tell. It's still the high-risk people that are getting it, and I don't know if the veteran population is more susceptible or not. I don't think we know that yet.
Those who took the test at the drive-through testing site can expect a result as soon as possible if they test positive. As an asymptomatic carrier, in anywhere from 2 weeks to 30 days for those who tested negative. And Zawacki said it was exciting to see so many people come get tested and hopes the practice becomes more common so more can be learned about the virus.
I would love to see everyone get tested. It would be so great to know. I think that would gather a lot more data, but it's so great to see that in the first 10 minutes, people were lined up to the corner there, and then even half hour before we opened, they were getting lined up.
Reporting in Helena, Sam Hoyle, MTN News.
Storms capable of producing producing 90-mile-per-hour wind gusts are moving into Glasgow right now. We're going to talk about this and more coming up after this break.
StormTracker weather starts now with Grant Garland.
Welcome back, everyone. We have definitely had a very active afternoon, and we're continuing to see this as a line of severe thunderstorms are making their way towards the Dakotas. And we've seen already one tornado that was reported by a police officer down towards Winnett. And I mean, we've seen that. We've had 4 tornado warnings. We've been looking at just a slew of severe thunderstorm warnings as well. So let's go ahead and zoom on in here, taking away the lightning because it kind of makes it very, it's a lot to try and grasp as we head throughout the next over the last 3 hours. So this is the storm. It's starting to bow out. We do not like that. That's whenever we're looking at strong winds that are really taking hold of that storm. I mean, with this storm in particular, we could be looking at 90-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So we have 2 parts of our county, or in our counties, we have 2 separate severe thunderstorm warnings because we've got this top part that's pushing kind of this way, and then we've got this part that's kind of pushing that way. So in one aspect, we're looking at a severe thunderstorm warning for Daniels and Phillip County until 6:15, and then the other we're looking at this part of the area being in that until 6:30. So heads up, we do have this strong thunderstorm that's making its way towards the Dakotas, but where? When can we expect it? Well, with this storm moving at 60 miles an hour, I mean, it is really booking as it makes its way towards the east. So we're going to be looking at it making its way towards around Opheim here in the next 10 minutes, and then out towards Scobie, we're going to see that around that 6:42 mark. So that's what we're looking at, and then we have all these other cities too outside of our viewing area. But still, I mean, this is a powerful storm, being able to bring with it 90-mile-per-hour wind gusts, as well as an 1.5 inch sized hail, if not more. Temperatures also are helping fuel these thunderstorms. The warmer temperatures, as that line moves into this area, it's allowing for it to continue to be fed. So 65 degrees in Glasgow. It has dropped though significantly, all thanks to that rain-cooled air, and we're still looking at a high risk. So as that line moves out, we'll start to see the diminishing threat of severe weather, but still high alert for those in the brown, because we're looking at 80+ mile-per-hour wind gusts, 3 inches or more hail possible, and we've already had a few tornadoes. The good news is that as that line has moved away from our neck of the woods, we've actually seen our counties being taken out of that severe thunderstorm watch. Still in place though until 9 p.m. for Daniels and Phillip County. We're seeing 29-mile-per-hour wind gusts up in Glasgow and 20 miles an hour in Jordan. Now, as we head throughout the next couple of hours, we're going to see again this continued bowing out trend by around 7 as it pushes off towards Canada and our most northeastern county around 8:30 p.m. It will quickly leave our area. Then we'll start to see a breaking trend in terms of clouds. And we're going to be looking at tomorrow, though, maybe then the high line having a better chance for showers or so. So heads up, that's what we're expecting throughout the next hour or two. Now, you can always follow me on social media, especially on Facebook. That's where I'm most prominent, and that's where we can. That's where I usually will be able to get the most information out to you. 51 in Great Falls, 49 in Helena for tonight, 53 in Havre. As we take a look at our next 3 days, we are looking at temperatures starting to warm up. 82 by Thursday, sunny skies, only an isolated chance for a thunderstorm or two on Friday. And same situation for our friends in Helena. We are going to be looking at sunny skies as temperatures warm up with only an isolated chance of showers and thunderstorms on Friday. Don't go away. We'll be back right after this break.
From Montana's news leader, you're watching the MTN 530 News.
Well, the recession isn't stopping people from drinking. In fact, we're drinking even more beer, according to a study by IRI. The market research company says beer sales from grocery stores are up. That includes what's called cheap beer. That's not surprising during a recession. However, craft beer sales in stores are also up. IRI says people who are buying craft beer are young professionals who are still making a good amount of money, and they might even be saving more cash while working remotely. But as the recession continues, there's a possibility they'll start buying cheaper beer. Well, closer to home, that trend of rising craft beer sales in stores seems to be holding up, but we wanted to know if the recession continues, will locals switch to the cheaper options? Jeremiah Johnson of Jeremiah Johnson Brewing Company said that they remain positive.
You know, I'm an optimist, and I don't really see that happening. I think the general trend in beer consumption, at least from my viewpoint, is that more and more people are enjoying craft beer. I don't necessarily see a decrease in the consumption of craft beer on a local level. I guess nationally it could have that effect in certain areas. But again, we're optimistic about our future.
All right, they also tell us that they package over 80% of their beer, and their packed beer has done very well since COVID-19 started. I know Grant might be up for a cold beverage of some sort tonight.
After this, definitely, especially a glass of wine. Well, we are looking at, again, this powerful line of thunderstorms making their way out towards Fraser. We're going to be seeing that making its way in here around 6:07, around Wolf Point 6:26, and around Scobie at 6:43. So heads up, we need to make sure that we are staying weather aware as this powerful line, possibly producing 90-mile-per-hour wind gusts, makes its way through. 73 degrees, though. Tomorrow will be sunny, and yes, it will be a little bit windy, but we'll take that, especially after this afternoon. And for our friends in Helena, 71 tomorrow, sunny and windy as well, Tim.
All right, and I know you're going to be tracking more weather through all night long, so you'll keep us informed.
For the next hour and a half, you got it.
All right, thanks, Grant, and we'll see you back here tonight at 10.